This video I've thought about for a while. 3 character traits which I see in my favorite people, the ones that are most content with life, most successful. Now obviously no one has anything figured out on an absolute scale, but relatively we can agree that some people have life a bit more figured out than others. So what do these people do differently? First up, solutions and not problems. Sometimes things just get the better of you. You're caught out by a problem completely from left field. On top of everything else, you're thinking, please, not this.
This is exactly what I don't need right now.
All of these thoughts rush to your head, but a solution-based thinker quickly snaps out of it and thinks, another problem to fix, another problem to find a solution for. I'll give you a little story to show how I tried to implement this. So a bit of context, it's last week, the calendar is full of work, training is dialed in, family is visiting, life is fulfilled, but also quite busy. And then out of nowhere, my iPad stops working. One of my most valuable tools. The thing that keeps me connected to the outside world on my little island in Croatia. Just 2 days ago, I came back from the capital city, where all the technicians are for iPads. And as I get back to the island, it breaks down. I was so upset, I was frustrated, and I was just, it wasn't my day. But then I remembered my favorite people think of solutions and not problems. And so quickly, I booked the next ferry to the mainland. I went to a shop, I got it diagnosed, and they told me, you're gonna have to go back to the capital city to get it fixed. I didn't dwell too long on the problem, but quickly thought, okay, what is the best and quickest way of getting this fixed? Next, I cleared out my calendar, shuffled around work for the next 2 days, and booked the first bus back to the capital city of Zagreb to try and get it fixed. Now, because the iPad might not have gotten fixed in time, as is now currently happening, I thought, okay, let's make a contingency. So I bought a cheap drawing tablet off Amazon and got it delivered to the city center, which I then picked up the other day, just in time for work starting again in a couple of days. So here my solution-based thinking, for once, came to a good outcome. During the stressful situations, I thought ahead and anticipated what could go wrong and how to fix it. So tons of things, a lot of stress, a lot of tasks. But what you can see is that every plan has a plan B, and every plan B has a plan C. And so always being one step ahead means that you're never behind a problem. You're always thinking in front of it, thinking of solutions to problems that might happen rather than ones that have already happened. Very solution orientated and not problem orientated. Good job, Bartol, finally. So what I try and do is always think ahead of solutions and try and see any problem as a potential for a great solution rather than just being a problem. I have great stories from my time sailing, leading 10 yachts around Croatia and all the problems and solutions that came out of that. From boats being towed while they're filling up with water, from rudders getting locked and having to join to another yacht and dock together. Honestly, I wish I had filmed all of these situations because they're great experiences and different cases of having to find interesting solutions to different problems. But one thing that I think is definitely true is that solving problems for other people is much easier than trying to solve or find solutions to your own problems. There's an extra level of emotion that's involved when something happens directly to you, which is harder to deal with than in a professional scenario or something that happened to someone else. For example, with my iPad, I'm sorry to go on about it, but there is a big chance that all my university files will be lost. And to be honest, I should have got iCloud and backed it up or regularly transferred files to my laptop, but I just didn't do that. And now looking back, I have no control of what I could have done in the past. My parents always tell me it's easy to be a general after the war. And it's something that I use to sort of absolve my responsibility from things. But all jokes aside, it's a very useful way of figuring out what you can focus on and what things are just completely out of your control. In order to sort of combat this personal level of emotion involved with your own problems, I just kind of pretend I'm talking to a friend, pretend I'm giving advice to a friend with their problems, and try to just approach it in that way in order to make it a bit less personal and get to the real solution of something rather than dwelling too much on the problem of it. This helps get rid of the emotional side of things and just helps you approach something completely practically, which makes these sort of problems much less taxing on your system because you're purely thinking of them in a practical way. Okay, enough about the iPad for now. Number 2, never stop learning. One interesting thing that's happened to me whilst I've been in the capital city of Croatia, Zagreb, is that I went to a lecture on hospitality. I did this before the summer sailing season starts to gain some insights that I can apply into my summer work as a yacht skipper. It gave me the chance to evaluate my strengths and weaknesses and find areas that I can work and improve on for this season ahead. I learned a lot about how to approach the very particular situation of living with 10 strangers for a week on a boat and trying to manage them and make their experience as best as possible throughout the week, and how to tackle all of the challenges that come from living in close proximity to 10 strangers and ways of dealing with them in productive and professional ways. Now, a lot of people in that lecture looked like they didn't really want to be there. They approached it from the point of view of already knowing everything. And in the sailing community, there is quite a clear ignorance and closed-mindedness to approaches that I've seen over my years. I think this comes from everyone coming into sailing from different entrances. And so everyone's journey is completely different. They've been taught by different instructors, and in their eyes, they think they know the right way to do things. And so in this case, they find it hard to take on different opinions and different ways of doing things and implementing them into their own routines, even though they might be doing things wrong. But what I constantly see in the people that I look up to the most is as simple as just an open-minded approach to everything that they do and an eagerness to learn no matter their level. The worst thing is thinking that you know everything. The second you start thinking like that is the second you stop growing and learning as a person in your life, in your relationships, in your career. I really try and think that no matter what interaction I have with someone, what experience I have, what lecture I go to, what new piece of information I hear, everything is always a learning opportunity, and one that you can take forward. Take pieces of information that you think you can learn from, discard the rest, and try and implement them into your life in order to grow and grow as a person. In school, we learn about a fixed versus a growth mindset. And at the time, maybe it seemed not very useful, but I think what they're really trying to do is trying to develop a want for just listening. And once you've mastered listening, then learning as well. An open-minded approach gives you that skill of just listening to things objectively. A growth mindset then lets you translate that into taking that opinion and learning and growing from it. And finally, number 3, optimism is the key. Behind all of my favorite people in life, the engine that is working is the engine of optimism. It's working very hard in the background. It's that sense of positivity, it's that sense of optimism. I know it sounds cliche, but that glass being half full or the silver lining on each cloud, it's the truth. It's that positive mindset that drives everything else. Once I heard that all philosophy comes from the perspective of life. In that sense, it is only possible to philosophize because we are living and curious creatures, and therefore that should inspire us to keep living that way. In that same vein, I think that all good things in life come from the perspective of optimism and positivity. My family has always said that you have to spread good feelings in order to receive good feelings. Those good vibrations. And all my favorite people do exactly that. And of course, you can't be positive all the time. That would be insane. But just like the weather and the climate, you can have a rainy day, you can have a more mellow day, you can have a really bright day. But in Croatia, we have a Mediterranean climate, which on average is very mild and nice, even though the weather can go up and down. So just think about it in terms of weather and climate. In life, things just happen. And very bad things can happen as well, but our reaction to those things is what makes us who we are. It's super easy to feel good when everything is good. The real character is tested and shown where you can feel good when things are not so good. One thing that I see Ali Abdaal talking about all the time is changing the framework of how you look at different things. In his videos, he mentions that when he's super busy, his first instinct is to think, I have to do all this work. But a much better way of thinking about it is to say, I have the opportunity to do all this work. I get the opportunity to do all of this great work. And just this little switch in your head of thinking of something as an opportunity rather than a chore can completely change your life. No matter what you choose to apply these 3 traits to, I think they form the backbone of a great character. It's a base, it's a perspective from which to view life and live it in a way that rewards and fulfills. But obviously it's just one option. There are plenty of people out there that go through life without one or all of these traits. And that's fine, but what I've seen from my favorite people, the people that can go through tough times and still have a good time, is these 3 traits. In the end, with different traits and different characteristics, 2 people with the exact same life on paper can live completely different lives in their heads. A bit of a random video, but a few things happened in a row this week that just pushed me to think about this topic a little bit more and share my thoughts with you. So I hope you enjoyed listening to my thoughts, and down below let me know what you think about them and how you approach life. What are the 3 traits that you think people should have in order to have happy and fulfilled lives? Let me know down below, and until next time, I'll see you. Bye.